Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession is about to enter the hall. We will be singing the national anthem. The words are on page 11 of the program. Please stand for the academic procession and remain standing for the national anthem.
I, Catherine Branson, Deputy Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, declare open this congregation convened for the purpose of presenting degrees. Distinguished guests, parents, relatives, friends, and especially graduates, welcome to the University of Adelaide's graduation ceremony. Perhaps this morning I could be allowed to mention especially Dr. Mark Shepherd, who is with us today. It's likely we think that Dr. Shepherd is the oldest living medical graduate from the University of Adelaide, It's wonderful to have him with us. We acknowledge the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the Adelaide Plains, and thus of the lands on which the University of Adelaide's campuses are built. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I offer a special welcome to all First Nations peoples with us today. I now introduce Uncle Rod to welcome us to country.
Machawanga, Ghana Mena, Nai Wangani, Mani Nabudni, Ghana Yatana, Nai Burka Mankalankala, Tandanya Menako, Nature Yungadaya, Nature Yakandaya, Padni Yadu Wadu. So on behalf of the Ghana people, I welcome you to Ghana country. I do this ambassador of the Adelaide Plains people. My brothers, my sisters, let's walk together in harmony. Natea, thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Rod. Graduates, your graduation is an event in which you and your family and supporters can take great pride. It is also a source of pride and satisfaction for the University of Adelaide. This graduation day is an opportunity for you to reflect both on what brought you here today and on the direction that your future might take. This day might mark a very significant change in direction for your life. Whatever direction your life takes, the skills that you've acquired here and the talents you've developed will, I'm sure, stand you in good stead, not only in your working and professional life, but in life generally. I now call on the Vice-Chancellor and President, Professor Peter Rathjen, to present the candidate for an honorary degree.
Deputy Chancellor, it is now my great pleasure to present to you Colin Douglas Matthews for admission to the honorary degree of Doctor of Medicine honoris causa. Today we live in a society in which in vitro fertilisation, or IVF, is so commonplace that 1 in every 4 births in Australia is now attributed to IVF. This remarkable breakthrough in modern medical science has given hope to thousands of couples in Australia, enabling them to realise their dreams of having a family. It has given them the gift of life, where life may not otherwise exist. And with that has come generations of young people who have gone on to pursue their own opportunities, their own potential. In fact, many of the young graduates who cross this stage today will owe their very lives to IVF techniques. But while IVF and other reproductive technologies seem common today, there was a time when such births were rare, and the journey for couples, as well as scientists and clinicians, was long and difficult. Today we have with us a man whose scientific career has helped to lead that journey. Colin Matthews has contributed enormously to both science and society through his life's work. He is globally renowned for his pioneering methods and has helped put Adelaide and the University of Adelaide on the world map for reproductive science and medicine. Now an emeritus professor with our university, for much of his long career he has shown great leadership and foresight and has helped to embody a spirit of innovation, all while searching for benefits to the community. A product of medical training from the 1960s in Liverpool, Colin was appointed to the University of Adelaide in 1971. He joined the Department of Obstetrics and Gynaecology and was a senior consultant in obstetrics at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. For the next 3 decades, Colin led both clinical and scientific advances in the management of human infertility that would fundamentally transform our society. Colin has several Australian and world firsts to his name. He co-established one of the world's first sperm banks, pioneered the use of intracytoplasmic sperm injection and the use of IVF technology to prevent the transmission of genetic diseases, such as Huntington's disease. Importantly, and something not many people can claim, he helped to deliver the world's 5th ever IVF baby back in 1993. As founder, head and professor in the university's reproductive medicine unit, Colin also understood the value of commercialising his world-leading activities. Under his guidance, the reproductive medicine unit led to a spin-out, ReproMed, which over the following 20 years invested something like $30 million back into research aimed at better understanding infertility and how to overcome it. Not only did Colin and his team make important contributions to establishing modern and highly respected infertility healthcare services, he has trained many distinguished clinicians and scientists who have continued his legacy throughout the world. The reach of his expertise is truly global. Among other companies, he has established the Pipette Company, which provides IVF instruments to reproductive medicine clinics in 50 countries around the world. That company's success resulted in Colin and his son Jonathan becoming the joint recipients of a Bioinnovation SA Industry Award. Colin also understood the broader impact and implications of his work. His professional contributions extend beyond clinical practice and research to influence policy and legislation, such as helping to set up South Australia's legal framework for reproductive health technology. In 2013, he was awarded the Officer of the Order of Australia in recognition of his outstanding contribution to reproductive medicine. Today, we at the University of Adelaide continue to lead in reproductive health through the work of our Robinson Research Institute, and we're proud to have Colin as one of our emeritus faculty. In all things, Colin has stayed grounded, understanding that there are more discoveries to be made, more people that can be helped. He once said, "I'm most proud of having been part of world-leading reproductive health unit at the University of Adelaide that brought fertility success to couples where possible, but also not forgetting those we were not able to help." Deputy Chancellor, I am very pleased and proud to present to you Emeritus Professor Colin Douglas Matthews, Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, Doctor of Medicine, Officer of the Order of Australia, for admission to the honorary degree of Doctor of Medicine, honoris causa.
It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today's graduation orator. It is, of course, Emeritus Professor Colin Douglas Matthews.
Deputy Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, academic colleagues, guests, our Centurion graduate, a rare species, and new graduates. New graduates, there may be a lot of colour up here, but you are the most important people here today because, of course, you are the future. Thank you, Deputy Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, for the very generous citation. This is the first talk I've given in a hat. Sperm bank, artificial insemination, disgusting, not in my hospital. The words of the all-powerful administrator of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in 1971, when Bob Seamark and I set up a very early, perhaps the first, human sperm bank. Sometimes culture has to change. And change it did, because we started to see some very curious creatures come into our infertility clinic. And these curious creatures were called men or husbands. After all, infertility was women's business before that. And these men had a variety of medical conditions that explained their infertility, conditions we'd never been taught, nor were in the textbooks. Quite a challenge for a gynecologist. Australia was the #1 country in the world for IVF in the early 80s. Why? Well, we had a handful of wonderful people in Melbourne. We had a very strong scientific society focused on domestic animal reproduction, and henceforth provided our embryologists. And later on, we had wonderful consumer support that got us Medicare funding and the future. So, as the saying goes, success has many fathers, and in our case, mothers. The world very early pregnancies from IVF at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital were most welcome. Multiple couples, and particularly the women, were going through multiple treatment cycles, multiple surgery, and multiple disappointments. Later on, we had some magic moments. Those of you who are not familiar with the technology of human reproduction, the human fertile male of the species usually deposits something like 200 to 300 million sperms. And from then it's a race to the egg. And conventional science says you need thousands and thousands of the most virile, speedy, handsome sperm to surround the egg before the chosen one penetrates the egg and fertilizes the egg. But what happens if you don't have 200, 300 million sperms? Supposing you've only got 10. Well, I don't fancy your chances. But who could believe one could pick up one of those 10 weakly, not so handsome sperm in a pipette, inject it into the center of the human egg with the expectation of achieving a conception and, more importantly, a normal baby. Diana Payne did that in 1993. We were the third unit in the world after Brussels and Gothenburg. And if you want to know how she did it, she's sitting in the second row here. Today, about half the cycles of IVF use sperm injection techniques. A year or so later, we had a second magic moment, the birth of a child without the risk of cystic fibrosis. Could you imagine the confidence of the science that you could take one cell out of a 4-cell or 6-cell, 8-cell embryo, test it, and show that the embryo itself either had cystic fibrosis or it didn't? We were about the 5th unit in the world. The European beat us to that technology. Today, we can have thousands of genetic conditions that can be diagnosed in the embryo, and we must stop the transmission of serious hereditary disease. If you'd have asked Bob Edwards, who got the Nobel Prize in 2010 after his 10-year struggle to get an IVF baby, if you'd have asked Bob Edwards how many couples would IVF help, you would have probably got a very modest number. Not the 8 million births today from IVF. Oh, I hear you. Not another 8 million Homo sapiens, the cruelest, most destructive species on the planet. But we do have some defense, of course. These are children who are very, very much wanted. We don't have a good handle on the percentage of the 130 million births there are in the world today that aren't so much wanted. What do we do about this overpopulation problem? Quite simple. We just have to raise more millions of people out of poverty, and they will do the rest. Graduates, you're in for an exciting era. You may have some competition from AI doctors, not the artificial insemination doctors, but the Dr. Google doctors. With the new genetics, you will understand some of our intractable human diseases and cure them. And even cancer, now recognized as a genetic disease, is looking vulnerable. 3 years ago, Grail, a startup company on the US stock exchange, raised $1.3 billion US dollars. What to do? To diagnose cancer. When? Before you know you have it. The future is exciting. And in the twilight of your years, who knows? One of your patients may be the first human to become immortal. After all, death may just be a technicality. I was very pleased to see the Channel 7 Research Foundation funded a chair in the Robinson Institute for the prevention of childhood disability, which we must stop. And I was particularly pleased that Joseph Getz was appointed to the chair, and also congratulate him on being the Scientist of the Year this year. I also want to thank Professors Norman and Sarah Robertson for their wonderful work they've done for the Robinson Institute at the forefront of reproductive research. Graduates, you have an outstanding institution, the top 1% of such institutions in the world. And if I may, I'd like to paraphrase John F. Kennedy's address at his inauguration as US President in 1961. Ask not what your university can do for you. Ask what you can do for your university. And graduates, if you covet this award, and I hope all of you do, I have a piece of advice for you. Just surround yourself with people brighter than you, who work harder than you, and stick around a while. Good fortune, and keep learning to our new graduates. Thank you.
On behalf of the graduates and their families attending today's ceremony, I'd like to thank Emeritus Professor Colin Douglas Matthews for his inspiring and stimulating address. We are honoured that you've taken the time to join us on this special day, to share with us your thoughts and your experiences. Your words of encouragement and advice are greatly appreciated. They remind us that education places upon each of us the enduring responsibility to make the best possible use of our talents and to contribute to the betterment of society in whatever way we can. Please join me once again in thanking Emeritus Professor Colin Douglas Matthews.
I will now receive the candidates for degrees. I call on the Vice-Chancellor and President.
Deputy Chancellor, I, Professor Peter Rathjen, Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, certify to you and the whole University that the graduates who will be presented to you have all fulfilled the conditions prescribed for admission to the award for which they are so presented.
I, Catherine Branson, Deputy Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, by virtue of the power committed to me by the University, confirm that each graduate is admitted to the rank and privileges of a holder of the award in the University of Adelaide for which they are so presented. I call on the Interim Executive Dean of the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences, Professor Andrew Zanatino, to present the graduates.
Deputy Chancellor, I, Interim Executive Dean of the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences, Professor Andrew Zanatino, present to you graduates from the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences. From the Adelaide Dental School, to the degree of Bachelor of Dental Surgery, Jared Allen Bryce. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Science in Dentistry, Thomas Norman Caulfield. To the Graduate Diploma in Forensic Odontology, Ioana Mirella Caulfield. To the degree of Doctor of Clinical Dentistry, Dr. Sanjana Baxi. Dr. Fiza Mughal. Dr. Primal Vijesh Kumar Patel. And Garima Sharma. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Psychometric Properties and Structural Determinants of Oral Health Care Performance Among Children in Australia, Dr. Rahul Nayar. From the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences, to the degree of Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, Kelly Artis. Tom Hamilton Brennan. Adriano Giuseppe Catalano. Sarah Molly Dawson. Carly Fryer. Annalise Elizabeth Gurman. Encia Hajamotalebi. Rosalind Ann Heaney. Yana Gadine Jericho. Kate Louise Matthews. Tony Nguyen. Daniel Nicholas Pedler. And Elahe Rohani Rad. To the degree of Bachelor of Health Sciences, Joshua Armstrong. Lauren Kate Chappell. Patrick Jasper I. Samara Marie Grimes. Halimatal Masrini binti Haji Masri. Anthony Huang. Joel Robert Morgan. Alexandra Porter. Ella Louise Price. And Vanessa Claire Wright. To the degree of Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, Advanced, Daniel Andriski. And Eliza Daisy Williams. To the degree of Bachelor of Health Sciences, Advanced, Bradley David Condon. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, Alexis Jane Bowen. Sidra Nawaz Khan. Koa Do Dang Lam. Edward Luong. Sebastian Overduin. Alumelu Ram. Larissa Marie Ryan. And Sanjna Singh. From the School of Public Health, to the Graduate Certificate in Public Health, Sunday Tanjangia. To the degree of Master of Public Health, Vanessa Anfiteatro. Bien Ami Baptiste Munyama. And Annette Lynn Purdy. To the degree of Master of Biostatistics, Nathaniel Christopher Carey Lucas. To the degree of Master of Clinical Science, for a thesis entitled Effectiveness of Operative Interventions in Individuals with Hemi or Total Hip Arthroplasty who sustain a Vancouver B2 periprosthetic femoral fracture, Jamie Raffaello Iannunzio. For a thesis entitled The Effectiveness and Safety of Neurally Adjusted Ventilatory Assist Mechanical Ventilation compared to pressure support ventilation in optimising patient ventilator synchrony in critically ill patients, a systematic review and meta-analysis, Arisara Pathum. To the degree of Master of Philosophy, Ophthalmology, for a thesis entitled Photobiomodulation Laser in Retinal Degeneration, Jack Z. Jia Ao. To the degree of Master of Philosophy, Clinical Science, for a thesis entitled GBS Study, Assessing Disease Burden and Risk Factors for Neonatal Group B Streptococcal Infection to inform the best strategies to prevent life-threatening infections in newborns, Mariana Yani. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Neuronal Encoding of Natural Imagery in Dragonfly Motion Pathways, Dr. Bernard John Evans. For a thesis entitled Adaptation and Validation of an Individualised Paediatric Health-Related Quality of Life Measure, Paediatric Measure Yourself Medical Outcome Profile and its evaluation in a clinical setting, Dr. Sana Ishaq. For a thesis entitled Evaluation of Services for the Preoperative Assessment and Management of High-Risk Surgical Patients, Dr. Clarabelle Tui May Pham. For a thesis entitled Evolving Emotions, Critically Analysing the Associations Between Mindful Parenting and Affect Regulation, Dr. Kishani Samantha Townsend. And for a thesis entitled Exercise in Atrial Fibrillation, Dr. Christian Vincent Verdicchio. From the Adelaide Medical School, to the degrees of Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, Charles Robert Jones. And Xiao Wei Shen Glenn. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Atrial Fibrillation and Sudden Cardiac Death in Obesity an investigation of the atherogenicity of epicardial fat. Dr. Thomas Adam Agberdine. For a thesis entitled From Trauma to Neurodegeneration, a one-year time progression of functional impairment and its associated neuropathological link following varied severity of experimental diffuse traumatic brain injury. Dr. Alina Arulsami. For a thesis entitled Fecal Microbiota Transplantation for the Treatment of Active Ulcerative Colitis, Dr. Samuel Paul Costello. For a thesis entitled The Role of Magnesium in the Treatment of Acute Asthma in Adults and its Effects on Beta-2 Adrenergic Receptor Function, Dr. Maureen Diane Buzitil. For a thesis entitled Role of Voltage-Gated Sodium Channel Isoforms in Electrophysiological Properties of Neurons Innervating the Viscera in Mice, Dr. Andeline Erickson. For a thesis entitled Herbal Medicine Toxicity, the Role of Adulterants, Contaminants, and Pharmacokinetic Interactions, Dr. Rachel Louise Farrington. For a thesis entitled Improving Patient Outcomes and Reducing Healthcare Burden, the Need for a New Paradigm of Care Delivery for Atrial Fibrillation, Dr. Celine Gallagher. For a thesis entitled The Relationship Between Trauma Exposure, Somatic Symptoms and Mental Health in Australian Defence Force members deployed to the Middle East Area of Operations, Dr. Kristen Graham. For a thesis entitled Sex Hormone Binding Globulin, Regulation and Role as a Marker of Chronic Disease Risk, Dr. Prabhan Gayawali. For a thesis entitled Insight into Appetite and Blood Glucose Regulation in Anorexia Nervosa and Health, Examining Gastrointestinal Changes in Starvation and with Short-Term Refeeding, Dr. Gabriella Alexandra Heruk. For a thesis entitled The Establishment of an Automated Electronic Data Collection System for the purpose of qualifying, evaluating and improving post-operative surgical outcomes and evidence-based surgery, Dr. James Marcus McLean. For a thesis entitled An Exploratory Investigation of the Oral Health of Hospitalised Older People, Dr. Claire Marie McNally. For a thesis entitled Preclinical Evaluation of a Vaccination Strategy to Induce Liver-Resident Memory T Cells Against Hepatitis C Virus, Dr. Zalialam Adis Mekonnen. For a thesis entitled Characterisation of Atrial Fibrillation Patients, Risk Factors, Progression, Gender and Thrombogenic Risk, Dr. Melissa Emma Middledorp. For a thesis entitled Examination of Placenta, and child saliva samples associated with childhood allergy development, Dr. Narul Hayati Mohammed Zainal. For a thesis entitled The Effects of Long-Term Exercise and Stopping Long-Term Exercise on Behaviours and Neurobiology, Dr. Julie A. Morgan. For a thesis entitled The Contribution of Maternal Obesity to Fetal Body Composition, Dr. Cecilia Marie O'Brien. For a thesis entitled The Role of the Osteocyte in Periprosthetic Osteolysis, Dr. Renee Ormsby. For a thesis entitled Development of Lentiviral Airway Gene Therapy Aerosol Delivery Techniques for Cystic Fibrosis, Dr. Harsha Vardini Padmanabhan. For a thesis entitled A Multi-Centre Case Control Study of Vitamin D and Breast Cancer Risk Among Pakistani Women, Dr. Uzma Shamsi. For a thesis entitled The Effect of Dietary Micronutrient Supplementation on the Reproductive Health of Obese Males, Dr. Helena Solange Shehadeh. For a thesis entitled A New Role for Peroxidases in Bone Repair, Dr. Alexandra Jane Shoebridge. For a thesis entitled Role of Continuous Glucose Monitoring Technology for Type 2 Diabetes Management, Dr. Penelope Taylor. For a thesis entitled Pharmacological Modulation of Inflammation, Bone Loss and Pain in a Murine Model of Inflammatory Arthritis, Dr. Bonnie Williams. And for a thesis entitled T regulatory cells in early pregnancy in mice, Dr. Bi-Hong Zhang. From the Adelaide Nursing School, to the degree of Bachelor of Nursing, Rani Batari. Taluse Por Ki. Laura Patricia Martinez. And Brianna Kate Sneath. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Gabrielle Jansen. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Orthopaedic Nursing, Maria Janet Cornish. Carolyn Cooch. Angela Ann Engelhardt. Nikki Ann Jonas. Jinsey Joseph. Claire Ann O'Toole. and Arjun Srinivasan Mahadevan. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Oncology Nursing, Rebecca Tracy Richards. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Intensive Care Nursing, Chelsea Uren. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Gerontological Nursing, Minnie Gim. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Emergency Nursing, David Freer. William John Kepper. Sayana May So. Krishnavini Somu. And Madeline May Staley. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Cardiac Nursing, Leah Ruth Kitto. Elizabeth Page Mayfield. And Lainey Sear. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Anaesthetic and Recovery Nursing, Sarah Jane Sorensen. To the Graduate Diploma in Nursing Science, Acute Care Nursing, Alana Jane Goodacre. Amber Rose Jenkins. And Frances Kate McInerney. To the degree of Master of Nursing Science, Cardiac Nursing, Doreen Nyoni. To the degree of Master of Nursing Science, Anaesthetics and Recovery Nursing, Darren James Bradbrook. To the degree of Master of Nursing Science, Melissa Lynn Jones. Natasha Deanna Leedham. Magella Ann McKinnon. And Sishiru Surumi. To the degree of Master of Clinical Nursing, Claire Yeo. To the degree of Master of Clinical Science for a thesis entitled Developing a Model of Care for a 4 to 6 bedded post-anaesthetic recovery unit, a Delphi study, Louise Ann Maguire. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for a thesis entitled How to Implement and Sustain Better Oral Health in Home Care for Older People, a realist mixed method case study, Dr. Adrienne Alexis Lewis. From the School of Psychology to the degree of Bachelor of Psychological Sciences, Skye Caitlin Barrowcliffe. Taylor May Corral. Annabelle Imogen Foster. Hayden Peter Frankhusen. Harriet Illies. Timothy Gordon Lees. Also receiving the Diploma in Languages, Josephine Wing Ki Liu. Sally Mariamoko. Mary Rose Aliotis Mialopoulos. Matthew David Nelson. Emily Ann Seeker. Eleanor Lauren Snoswell. And David Stubben. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Psychological Science, Umama Amir. Shazeen Aslam. Carly Marissa Davies. Jacqueline Page Heinrich. Emily Kate Johnson. Amber Jade Murray. Georgia Adelaide Nelson. And Leah Nicole Thompson. To the degree of Master of Psychology, Organisational and Human Factors, Claire Elizabeth Jarrett. And Matthew Lucas. To the degree of Master of Psychology, Clinical, Sharon Lee Heerbrand. And Kate Sarah Pollock. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Supporting the Journey of Pregnancy for Women with Type 1 Diabetes, Dr. Helen Margaret Edwards. For a thesis entitled How Can We Do Positive Education Better? The Role of Student Involvement, Implementation and Physical Activity in Adolescent Wellbeing, Dr. Amber J. Halliday. And for a thesis entitled Factors Affecting the Transfer, Generalisation and Maintenance of Interpersonal Skills Related to Conflict Resolution and Leadership, Dr. Sonia Francesca van der Groot. Deputy Chancellor, this concludes the graduates from the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences and for this ceremony.
Deputy Chancellor, University Doctoral Research Medals are awarded to graduates who have completed outstanding research at doctoral level. This award is the premier award for doctoral candidates at the university. I, Professor Peter Rathjen, Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, present to you a recipient of the 2018 University Doctoral Research Medal for research in the field of economics, Kazi G.M. Ziol Hawk.
I'm very pleased now to present to you Dr. Bernard John Evans, who was presented this morning with the Doctor of Philosophy. Dr. Bernard John Evans will now give the Valedictory Address on behalf of the cohort of graduates who were presented with their awards today.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. By my reckoning, today is the mid-year graduations, which means that those of you seated here have come to here by a road less travelled. Whether you started early, started late, rushed to get here, or took your time, mid-year graduations is the unconventional route. At least for me, it certainly has been. This is, after all, my third graduation, and hopefully my last. My first degree was more conventional. I stood in this hall nearly 15 years ago as a newly minted engineer. If you had told me then that I would be standing here today, giving an address in the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences, I would have thought that you were mad, or at least that perhaps someone had invented a time machine and was messing with the timelines. If you had told me then that I would abandon my career after only 7 years and return to university to study a second undergraduate degree, I would have scoffed. Ridiculous. If you had told me that I would be studying insect brains, well, I would have been like many of my friends and family who at this time, this decision 8 years ago, were, for one word, incredulous. What do you mean you're going back to university? Why? What, you're going to study what? Think about what you are abandoning. There are two ways one might think about this. In the first account, my story is one of catastrophic blunder. I chose the wrong career. Wasted 4 years at university and another 7 working in a job I hated. In this story, the older me wishes he could turn back the clock and whisper in the ear of his younger self. You're making a mistake. You should be studying something else. Perhaps you are thinking this now, doubting yourself, now that it is all over. Did you really make the right decision? Did you choose the right degree? In the second account, I have no regrets. While I didn't enjoy my first career, I did learn from it. While my first degree wasn't my eventual career path, the skills I learned did not go to waste. While working as an engineer, I met my wife and subsequently had my darling son. I made friends both at university and work that I will have for the rest of my life. Friends who have supported me through this career change. And I have stories. Stories of drunken nights out playing pool and cards and StarCraft, of all-nighters doing assignments and waking up with keyboard imprints on my face. I have numerous stories of my bizarre colleagues and belligerent managers. And now I have one last story, the one that I want to share with you today. In this story, someone, despite everyone else's advice, decided to take a risk and pull a U-turn. This person pressed reset and started again, abandoning a career and went back to university. The most important part of this story was, and is, that it was the right decision. It all worked out in the end, and they all lived happily ever after. At least, that's what the funny hat seems to indicate. What I'm trying to say is today isn't the first day of the rest of your lives. It's just the end of one chapter and the start of another. And lives have many chapters. Some books are conventional and follow straight lines, and others, well, others are more interesting. So when you leave here today, don't be too daunted. Just take life as it comes. And don't be afraid to take risks. Two paths diverged in a wood, and I took the road less travelled by. Thank you.
As this ceremony draws to its close, it gives me great pleasure to congratulate all of the new graduates here today. Be proud of what you've worked to achieve, and remember those who have supported you to reach this end. Amongst them, remember the wonderful staff of this university, who spent many hours assisting you to be here today. I wish you every success as you enter this next exciting stage of your life and career. As graduates of the University of Adelaide, you are also its alumni and its ambassadors. Over the years since the university was established, its alumni have made an enormous contribution to the community, both here and throughout the world. And today you join this community of over 147,000 alumni located in more than 134 countries around the globe. We also have 17 global alumni networks, including 8 international networks. I'd like now to take this opportunity to thank our mace bearer and our valedictorian, and all who assisted in the organisation and running of today's ceremony. May I now ask all of the graduates to remain seated, and I invite everybody else to stand and once again join me in congratulating the graduates on their achievements. Would the audience please remain standing, and the graduates now please stand for the academic recession. I declare this congregation closed.